You aiming at the blue can? Nice shot.
Come on.
Now shoot it. Keep shooting at the blue can.
Come on.
Oh, jammed?
Yeah, it's...
Okay, let me, I'll need to work on that. Hang on.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again today, and we're coming at you from the workshop. Going to do something a little bit different today. We're gonna tinker with a firearm, for lack of a better word. And what we're looking at here, this pretty little piece of nostalgia, I guess I'd call it history, with this being upwards of 60 years old, is a Marlin 89C. And what this is a this is a 22, a semi-automatic magazine-fed 22 that I did kind of a little bit of an overview of it and a little bit of a history. It's something that was gifted to me, and so I took this out and shot this for the first time yesterday, and regret not taking pictures. I was basically with open sights hitting a group where everything went in a spot about that big, just a little bit bigger than a silver dollar, for those of you that remember stuff like that. And so this is a fine accurate rifle, and you know, you would expect that. It's got a nice barrel on it, a nice wood stock, and so forth and so on. And again, using these buckhorn sights. However, it's a little bit of a jammer, and there's the usual suspects when you have feeding issues. Do you have a magazine issue? Okay. Do you have an extractor issue in terms of your cycling? What could be causing that? Is it a combination of things? Does it just get dirty and that's all she wrote? Keeping in mind, back in the mid 50s when this guy was made, they were selling these for about 35 bucks. So hard to say. But what we're going to do is take this down and look at several things. We're going to look at the spring that's back here. Is it rusty? Is the inside of this chamber rusty? Give that a good cleaning. We're gonna look at the bolt face in the extractor. Magazine wise, I'm a little bit at the mercy of what's out there. You can get these magazines on eBay, like a 10 shot for 40 bucks, and that's not too exciting. But we're also gonna look at the magazine. So gonna look at the usual suspects when you have issues with feeding. We're talking 22s, and obviously when you get into the world of 22s, that can be finicky as well. I'm not expecting perfection out of something like this, but I would like to be able to eliminate or greatly reduce the failure to eject issues. We'll take a look at these parts. We'll see that you know, it's older and, for lack of a better word, kind of cheaper design. There's just not a lot of reference material available for this particular firearm, so for the most part, this is me learning as I go. Okay, I mentioned magazine here, and the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is check, make sure that we're clear, and we are. I'm going to be getting into the innards there in a second. But in terms of the magazine here, what I'm interested in doing is making sure that the spring is not rusty, that the inside of this magazine housing is not rusty, so that we've got consistent function. I think it's fine, but you just never know, really, until you get into it. So let's put a little bit of the CLP on here. And we're gonna basically just get it kind of wet in there, for lack of a better word. So I definitely think I'm gonna order some new magazines for this when I feel like dropping 40 bucks, 30 bucks a shot. But my short-term solution is pretty simple. We're just gonna get lube down in there any way we can. And something else to point out on these, if you want to take the trigger housing out and things of that nature, it all happens here with this guard. It's not a part of this situation here when you take out your barrel. But this is what we're looking at. Okay. This is basically what we're looking at. And it's interesting how this works. Basically, when you charge that, all the trigger does is lift up on this piece right here. It's about as simple as it can be. Give you a better look there. That's all it does, and all the safety does is it keeps that from happening. So, pretty basic stuff. I see a little bit of rust in there, and so the first thing that I'm going to do here is you depress these, and out comes your mainspring. This plug in the back is just held in such as that. So we're going to be able to clean that up. And here's your mainspring pin. And you can see your plunger right here. If you look real close, you'll see it's got some wear on this. As you can see, this spring fits inside this spring. What about this? What about this bolt mechanism? How's that going to come off? Well, we're going to have to figure out how to take this lever off so that we can slide the bolt out the back. Before we do that though, I'm going to go ahead and take off the magazine well. And that's held on by a simple screw on either side, and it's going to fall okay. So this part comes right out, and this is your magazine well. Okay, so that's one thing that we can take a look at. Our magazine slides in here, and that's how it presents at the top. So we'll be able to take a look at that. But that's all that's involved with it holding in place. Is there's tension from this piece of metal, and it clamps against this little area right here. Okay. Is it staying in there pretty good? And it is. it's not a lot of movement. So first thing that I was wondering about is a negative. There's not an issue with this. So for right now, we're going to set these pieces aside. It's pretty rudimentary design in here. If you look at this right here, you'll see that that particular piece is your guide, feed ramp, if you will, and it's about as rudimentary as you can get. So we'll take a look at that. I can tell you that I gave the barrel and the chamber a pretty good cleaning before, probably putting somewhere around 100, 150 rounds through this. And it misbehaved pretty much intermittently at the get-go. So it's not an issue of only when it's dirty, only when it's hot. Again, some of the usual suspects. Okay, so the next thing here with this charging handle, it just slides out. You just pull it forward and up a little bit, and it comes right out. You have to remember how that goes in there. But basically, that's all you do with that. Now, I'm ready to take that bolt out and take a good look at it. Like I said, my culprit here is the extractor, perhaps. The bolt face. Could be any number of things, but we're going to take a good close look at it. Might just be a question of cleaning out that gap right there real good, and it'll work better. But we'll give this a good cleaning along with the bolt face. You can see the firing pin. See the firing pin right down there? See the firing pin right down there? Okay. And who knows if this has ever been out in all its years. But basically what happens is this piece right here, the plunger, pushes forward and activates this firing pin. You can see that right there. Okay. So we're going to clean these parts up real good and pay special attention, like I said, to this extractor claw right here. This is a part that is a band that wraps around and pops into place right here. This is a part I could replace if I deem that necessary. Okay, so you kind of see a little bit about what we got going on now. We've got this action that you see right here, and it's pretty dirty. We're going to give this a good cleaning. I also noticed when I took this down that this piece right here is bent. It's not supposed to be. From what I can tell, it's not going to interfere with the function of anything, but in my investigations and research into this rifle, that isn't supposed to be bent like that. But I'm not going to fool around with it. But I had an extra part, the purpose of which I didn't know, but when I took this trigger guard off last time, I had a part fall out. So by powers of deduction, the only place it really fit was between this trigger group and the stock, which you attach from the bottom here. And what it does is it keeps your trigger from having too much play. So in other words, it stops it right there. And without it, that trigger wanted to go a lot farther and had a ridiculously long pull. So that was kind of lucky I found that out. But you know, you want to start taking down old firearms, you know, pack a lunch, be patient, and be prepared. Also wanted to point out just a couple things that I use when I'm cleaning. I've always got about once a month or so, I'm getting a new toothbrush out. These things just do a great job for cleaning bolt faces, hard to reach places, you name it. And this is my choice, CLP, break free, as it's also called. I use this stuff on everything. It retains its properties. I live in a state that sometimes I'm outside shooting in below zero weather. And this stuff just doesn't break down. I like break free a lot, and you know, it's 10 degrees outside today. We're going to go out and try this out after I get it back together, and so I'm glad to have something like break free. But you can see we've got some parts to clean. I'm not going to bore you with how I clean them. But as I mentioned, I'm going to pay particular attention to this bolt face, and to this extractor claw. I love bore snakes, especially on these, something like a 22, where it's just really hard to use a rod and a patch kind of thing. So does the trick. Taking a look at this right here, if you look at this extractor claw, which I think is probably the most likely issue, if you peel this back, you'll see it's kind of dirty right there. Years and years of being shot and probably never cleaned. I don't want to change the basic shape of this, but you almost wonder if it would be better served opening up just a little bit. Not much, but we definitely want to get the dirt out of there. So we're going to give that a little bit of extra attention and get that as clean as we possibly can. You know, does it do that? And then does it pull it out? Okay. Other things to look for with 22 is a lot of 22 doesn't have the same power. And if you don't have enough powder in there on a blowback device, it's not going to want to push your bolt back as efficiently. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen with these 22s. They can be kind of finicky. I think that extractor claw is going to function better, but like I said, we're going to keep cleaning this and we're going to see. Now this end cap's kind of an interesting part. I don't know if you can, how well you can see down in there. Let's add a little bit of light, but if you see what looks like two pieces of metal that close in. What happens is this piece right here on a spring, obviously, is what holds these in place. So these push out, spring loaded of course, and then they hold the bolt assembly and everything in place. And wherever we have sliding parts, we want to add some more of that CLP. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this bolt back in. What you didn't see me do was spend quite a bit of time putting this plug back in with the spring. And it's just basically about if you don't get those two springs that I showed you lined up, you're going to have problems. But I got it on the first time, and the problem was it wasn't resetting the firing pin, which would be actuated by the trigger, which you see right there. So I took it out and basically did a couple of reattempts till I got it right. Finicky little deal, but anyway, much smoother action. We think we have that extractor claw cleaned out. We know we've got a nice clean and lube job inside the action, and now it's a matter of putting this guy back together, and I'm going to put a nice Nice thin coating of oil on the bottom side of this barrel against the stock. And we're going to see if what we did today had an impact on what we were doing. We'll find out. Next up is going to be taking this out and shooting it. We're going to go out in some cold weather today. It's about 10 degrees here in Minnesota. But talk to you a little bit about that adjustment plate part that was missing after I took this down the first time, partially took it down. Today I took it all the way down. But basically, as I showed you, it's right underneath where the trigger group butts up against and screws or attaches to the inside of the stock. And it's just this little plate that's in there. And basically, all you do is you loosen this screw enough to let gravity do its job and hold your trigger in the place where you want it to be. And as you can see, I've got pretty good tension, and what it does is it prevents it from moving too far forward. So it's called a trigger adjustment plate, and as you can see, that's what we're looking at. So not much there, but basically what we're going to do today with all of the things I know how to try, we're going to go out and see if we can't, if we just can't go out and shoot consecutive rounds without running into a situation where, you know, where we're having jams, misfeeds, things like that. Mostly it was failure to extract. It would try to put the next round into the chamber before the other one was completely out, and you'd get the hang-ups in here. Nothing that's that uncommon for a lot of 22s, but you know, if you probably never cleaned this thing in 60 years, and you know, you've got such small tolerances on your extractor claw in your chamber and so forth, you're going to have that kind of stuff. So I expect better results, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out, and we'll take some shots of that and report back. I mentioned before, this is an extremely accurate rifle. This is a very inexperienced shooter who's taking shots that I'm filming with. This is post taking it down and cleaning it, and you know, 4 or 5 shots in, and we've got a problem already. And that's kind of typical of what I was seeing before taking this down and cleaning it. Now we're gonna get some close-ups here, and I want you to pay attention to one thing I'm noticing. If you look at how far back the charging handle goes, it's not consistent. Right here, you're going to see on this very next shot, it only goes about halfway back. And the rest of them was going all the way back. Is that a function of the ammo? We don't know, but you're going to see right here on this next shot, there you go. There's a spent shell that did not eject, and brings it into the semi-auto fire that we're going to experience. So, but accurate as all get out. Just watch this shot here. This is incredible. First shot, about 22 yards, aiming at a small little can of some kind of compressed liquid, and there she goes. So that reason alone, just that anybody can pick this rifle up and be accurate with it. Yeah, sure, it's a keeper besides its nostalgic value. Not only besides its nostalgic value, but it's just the fact that it's so darn accurate. So, all that, and we still have the same basic issues with failing to eject, and you know, we saw the inner workings of this firearm. Could be a design issue. I still think it's either going to be the magazine or the extractor claw. I'm going to see about tracking down a new extractor claw. I say a new, a used part that hopefully is in better condition, and as well as a magazine at some point. Am I in a big hurry to do it? No. As you saw from the little bit of shooting we did today, super accurate rifle. So, you know, hey, if I'm going to go out and take 1 or 2 shots like I might for rabbit hunting, great. If I want to use this for a target rifle, though, obviously I'd want to get that extraction issue addressed. And I do classify this as an extraction issue and not as a feeding issue. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching today. This is Dr. Drake 63 saying so long.